Hello everyone out there, this is Alexander F. Nileri with one of my macroeconomic jargon. I think this is lesson number 5, and it's about what's been going on all over the world that no one can escape. What are tariffs? As Liberation Day has come and gone, I think it's the forefront of everyone's mind right now, and so there's no way you could have escaped it. So I'm just going to do something more educational so that once we're clear what tariffs are, we can just then go and look at what the hell is going on with tariffs. So, on a basic level, a tariff is a duty imposed by the government of one country or one custom territory on the imports of goods or products from another country. This duty or tax can act as a way to regulate foreign trade and help to boost domestic productivity. But according to Investopedia, another pedia, tariffs are used to restrict imports and make them less attractive to the domestic consumer. There are two types of tariffs. One, specific tariffs. A specific tariff is a specific amount of money that's added onto a product or goods coming from another country. So let's say cars, for instance. All cars coming from, let's say, Germany is going to America. You could put like $20,000 tariffs on all cars coming from Germany. If a Volkswagen is, say, 40 grand, you add 20,000 to it, it becomes 60 grand. If a BMW is like 70 grand, you add 20 to it, it becomes 90. You get the picture? Well, Kodak, man. Second one is an ad valorem tariff. Now, this is more like of a percentage levied on said goods. Say we do it on cars again, and you levy 25% tariff. If the car happens to be one of those exclusive ones, it's $200,000. The 25% of valorem make it 50,000. So the car now becomes $250,000. If we say put it on avocado that costs £1, and we add 25% tariff on it, that avocado now costs £1.25p. As seen recently, tariffs are designed to make the cost of imported goods more expensive than the local or domestic equivalent. So that it means local customers like you and me are forced to pay more for this product or buy the cheaper local product. It's supposed to incentivize the foreign manufacturer to come and build a factory in your country and produce it in the country that's imposing the tariffs. That means lots of jobs are created, everyone gets to work, and we all live in la la land, and we're all happy with this new job. That's the theory anyway. What are the advantages of tariffs? Tariffs are imposed by one country on the import of foreign goods or products from another country in order to promote the domestic products. So let's look at an example. In Nigeria, when they used to import lace and Ankara from abroad, they banned the importation of it. Then they put a big, huge tax on it, meaning it was too expensive, and the manufacturers, who happen to be members of the military and the cabal, they started manufacturing a cheaper version. Not as good quality, but that's all you could get. So that's one way developing countries use to boost their own domestic products. Tariffs are also used to raise revenues for the government. It's a form of tax, really, because who pays for all the increase on the product? The consumer. So it's used to raise revenues by the domestic consumer as an extra tax, which they in theory will use to build infrastructure, hospitals and roads and so on and so forth. But for domestic manufacturers and businesses, by reducing the goods that are flooding in from a bigger manufacturing country that may be being subsidized by the government. So for instance, it's known that the Chinese government sometimes subsidize certain products to make it cheaper, like the EV cars, for instance. Another advantage of tariffs is it can be used to combat trade deficit. Trade deficit is basically like a liability. For instance, say you're buying 400 billion worth of goods from another country and you're only selling them 200 billion worth of goods. Your trade deficit would be 200 billion. So in order to catch up, you might put some tariffs on some of their goods to make sure that you're now selling them 300 billion worth of goods and they're selling you 400 billion. So your deficit now has been reduced. The disadvantages: one, the people who end up paying most of the tariffs are the local consumers, the domestic retail buyer. Because if you put 50% on top of a phone or a car, the seller is going to pass that 50% onto the retail consumer, and that's you and me. That's why economists say it's a form of tax levied on the local consumers who now have to pay a higher price for this product. Another thing it does, it makes local businesses less innovative. Another thing, it can end up having a negative effect on manufacturing that relies on foreign imported parts like microchips, things like that. But I'm going to use food. Say if a restaurant who imports their raw products such as Wagyu beef, avocados, olive oil. Let's take a cafe that makes guacamole. In order to make guacamole, a restaurant buys avocado for £1 and sells the guacamole for £2. At some point, the president decides to put a tariff of £2 on the avocado. The avocado now costs £3, and in order for the cafe to sell the guacamole, they have to add £1 onto that. The guacamole now costs £4 to the consumer. This shows you how the tariff actually ends up being taxed on the domestic consumer's pocket. Another thing that tariffs can do is can damage international relations when it becomes reciprocal tariffs. And as you can see in this climate, Donald Trump puts 25% on Canada's steel and aluminium, and they put 25% on the American whiskey. America puts 50% on Chinese goods. China puts 50% on American goods. And it goes back and forth till no one ends up winning. This sort of reciprocal tariffs can lead to trade wars, and we don't want that. But it looks like that's what we have, and it can tank the stock market very rapidly. One of the early forms of tariffs was when the UK imposed heavy tariffs on importing cloth in the 18th century, but they reduced tariffs on raw materials like cotton so that the British could manufacture textiles and sell it to the rest of the world. The British did this by stealing Indians' methods and techniques, fabrics such as silk, cotton and khaki, because it was so popular in Britain. They then imposed 45% tariff on Indian textile. And as the masters and conquerors of India, they only imposed 5% tariff on British textile in India. This made British cloth very cheap indeed and crushed the sales of Indian-made textiles, thereby destroying the whole industry. The other people who used tariffs efficiently were Korea, Taiwan and Japan. In order to make sure that they could develop their car industry, they slapped heavy tariffs on American and German cars. That way they were able to develop the local market without much interference from international market. So it could work on that to that extent. The 25th president of United States, President McKinley, introduced tariffs when he became the president around 1887, and voters hated the tariff so much because they thought it was here just to benefit a rich industrialist. They hated it so much so that 3 years later he was assassinated, and apparently he was just about to change and stop tariffs, but it was too late for him. So until next time, this is Alexander F. Odileri saying please subscribe and like the videos. See you next time.